Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome back to Boz Comics. I just sat down and started going through Gantz now for the third time. I have twice now attempted to finish the series, and I couldn't get more than halfway. Not because I didn't enjoy the series. It wasn't a question of the story's quality, and it wasn't a question of it being too much for me. Gantz is known for its hypersexualization, its incredible levels of violence, and horrible things happening to characters we love, and whatever. Oh, none of those things really kept me away. It was just it was so much of everything. It was a lot to take in, and there's over 300 chapters, and I got consistently distracted and never been able to finish it. So I figured if I was going to try a third time, why not get you guys involved with me? So today we're taking a look at chapters 1 through 6. I've thought a lot about how to tackle these. I think I'm just going to share general thoughts. I don't think I'm going to do a point by point summary. I tried doing that in an earlier take of this video and it just got really tedious and was going on for too long. So instead, I'm just going to kind of try to talk in broad strokes. The long and short of it is our main protagonist, Kei Kurono, is an absolute piece of shit, malcontent kid. He's 16. He's a giant pervert. He has no regard for others, especially women. He sees women as objects. He thinks everyone is lesser than him. He's an absolute piece of shit. And as I understand it, one of the biggest appeals of Gantz is watching him grow up, stop being a fuck, and actually become a really good person. So I really like that. I'm into that. So I'm here for this character development. But in the first few chapters, it's just Kei Kurono basically being a piece of shit. He and a bunch of other people die horribly, and upon their deaths, they are whisked away to a mysterious apartment with a big black ball in the middle of the room. With a mysterious man inside the ball. He's hooked up to it like life support or something. And, the ball basically charges them to go out. It teleports them out to somewhere in the city where they're meant to hunt and kill these alien-like creatures. In this first round of chapters, they're aliens, humanoid forms, but with onion-like faces. They're called onion aliens, I guess. And, they're meant to take these weird weapons, something out of Men in Black, and go out and kill these aliens. I guess so they can go home. It's really weird and crazy and violent. And I mean, these are the reasons that you love Gantz. It's weird, gross, violent science fiction. Kay and the others are all woefully unprepared for this shit. Nobody in these first 6 chapters is remotely competent. There are a couple of Yakuza who end up in the room with them, I guess, who died, and they are just as useless as everybody else. They're loud and brash and pig-headed, but their problem seems to be that they think they're the cock of the walk, and that consequences are forthcoming. But yeah, so it's a bunch of people who are just brought together under mysterious circumstances and told to go fight. That's it. Most of these 6 chapters are set up. That's it, just set up. So I think I'll just talk about what I was struck with overall, given this premise and what we're shown so far in these chapters. I've already talked about Kei Kurono and how he is such an utter piece of shit, but I know what's coming. I know that he becomes better, and I know that's kind of the point of the story. So I'm all for that. Kato, his buddy, who kind of ropes him into trying to be a hero and help him save the dude on the tracks, and that's how they fucking die. There's a at the beginning of the book. Kurono dies because this dude Kato, who used to know him for when they were kids together, kind of guilts him into helping him save a homeless man who has fallen on some subway tracks. They're able to save the homeless man, but they get obliterated by the express train. As Kurono is an utter piece of shit, Kato is this like he would be the protagonist in a lot of other anime. Kato would. He's really like this stalwart, like do-gooder, like strong dude who sees the good in everybody and wants to do the right thing and it's just like a fucking optimist. It's kind of endearing. From reading and watching Inuyashiki, I know that that's the other series by this author. I know that Hiroya Oku. So his thing seems to be juxtaposing extremes. He likes to have really horrifying villains and tragedies, just monstrosities to such horrifying degrees it's utterly taboo. But then he likes to put that up against heroes that are really good people, who just want to strive for the good and the light and be such pure souls, like no matter what. At least that's kind of what he was doing with Inuyashiki, and I kind of see that in terms of like almost like juxtaposing like Kato with Kurono, and I almost feel like, well, they're already setting up, right, that like Kurono is gonna kind of look to Kato as being his moral compass. I have a feeling like I have a feeling that that's kind of like what we're meant to take away from this is, yeah, Kurono is like a total piece of shit, but now because of these extreme circumstances, he's put in this position where he has someone to strive to be more like. And I find that really interesting because Kato talks about how when he and Kurono were kids together in elementary school, a time that Kurono himself seems to barely remember, Kato looked to Kurono as this like good, strong, moral person who was a total badass. Whether that was true or not is kind of left up to interpretation, but that's kind of how Kato saw him at the time. And then so even though they like grew apart because Kato transferred to a different school, the school that I guess Kato transferred to was like this really rough place. And so Kato talks about how he drew on that memory of Kurono and how he saw him, and he used it to kind of reinvent himself as this like shonen protagonist, basically. So he really depended on that idea of who he thought Kurono was. So if it's a case of where like it's going to be like Kato believed in a lie, and then Kurono Kei believed in a lie, tried to become that lie, and then, or not Kei, excuse me, Kato believed in a lie, tried to become that lie, and then Kurono goes on to try to emulate that lie in turn. I think that's really fascinating. I think that's kind of where we're headed. That's kind of cool. See, like people I think tend to look at Oku's work and they just go like, oh, it's tits, it's gratuitous nudity. There is lots of gratuitous nudity as well as gratuitous violence in this book. I really can't stress that enough. Don't, if you're a prude, this is not a book for you. If, however, you like violence and gore and titties, like, order up, dude. But I think it's fascinating to see this kind of juxtapositions going on. The bonds that these characters, the ones that survive, because I know that like most of these characters, I'm not bothering to talk about any of the other characters really because they don't matter. Except for one character who shows up. There's a female character who shows up. She's like the last one to spawn in. Every time these characters die, right? And then they spawn into the apartment to begin playing the game that Gantz, spoilers, Gantz, the name of the book is the name of the ball in the middle of the room. Every time these characters start playing the game that Gantz has set before them, they spawn in like it's like they're being Xeroxed. So they're built up like a 3D printer of meat. So you see like the bottoms of their feet appear first, right? Like cut off at the ankles, and you can see like inside of them. You can see their innards as they're being built up in the apartment. It's like a human 3D printer. It's so bizarre. Um and so she's the last one to appear. She is completely naked. Um I know from reading ahead in the story that the reason that she's naked and wet is because she tried to kill herself in a bathtub, or I guess she successfully killed herself in a bathtub. Um, and so this is weird because it's pretty exploitative. Like there's a lot of just gratuitous nudity with this character, and you do kind of have to wonder with Oku, like what, like he clearly has some interesting things to say about sexuality and the way we treat people, but then like he can be really exploitative, and you do have to wonder, like, is this uncomfortable? Like this is uncomfortable. This is very uncomfortable. Is it being done because he's just a pervert, or is he really trying to push boundaries and say some things with this? My money's on it being somewhere in the middle, right? Like he is often trying to say more profound things, but if he can say it with a little TNA, all the better. I can't really fault him for that. I will just say I know that, like, if people are turned off by some of the more extreme aspects of his work, I wouldn't blame them. But yeah, so this girl, they don't even get her name, I don't think, in these first 6 chapters, and I can't quite remember it. I think it's Kishimono. I think. But yeah, she's a big part of the story. So she survives. I know that she survives this first round of chapters, so she'll be around a bit going forward. But again, like her inclusion in the story is really uncomfortable and weird. Like I don't know. I don't remember what. I'll have to see. I'll have to see how I feel about it reading it through again this time. But I know that in this like first round of chapters, it's really exploitative and weird. There's an uncomfortable moment with the dog. There's a dog that spawns in to Gantz. I believe it is safe to love the dog. I believe the dog is okay. Don't quote me. I know that Oku loves dogs. He had a dog in Inuyashiki as well, and it was safe to love the dog in that one. Hopefully something horrible doesn't happen to the dog. That, like, you know, like my fear is that something horrible happens to the dog, and then that's what he learned from. And so when he wrote Inuyashiki, he's like, okay, I'll leave the dog alone this time. But I know in this story there is a cute dog. The cute dog. How can I talk about this on YouTube? You know how dogs like to lick people? Well, Kishimono, or whatever her name is, when she spawns in, she's in a state of undress, and the dog proceeds to lick her in a very inappropriate manner. And eventually Kaito gives her a jacket. You know, he gives this jacket for her to cover herself with. But he says something like very gross. So if you're already grossed out because, you know, the dog is going to town, you know, which I was, that was like, what the fuck is this? And then Kaito, who's otherwise supposed to be this kind of like moral character, right? He says something like, put that on, meaning the jacket. He says, put that on before I do the same thing. What? What? So, like I said, there really is this question of like objectification of women in Oku's work, situations where things can get really wildly uncomfortable, or where like you know that he probably has the best of intentions, but you have to wonder if there's like a cultural divide because he's Japanese, or if there's an issue at work because of translations, you know, if there's subtleties that we're not picking up on. But I digress. So other than the bit of like fucking unwitting bestiality, like Jesus Christ. Yeah. Man, just going through these first 6 chapters, this series is weird. Like I'm excited to read more and move forward and try to take in this series again, but yeah, it's just a really bizarre series that gives no fucks at all about boundaries. And I mean, I think there's merit to that. I would just caution you going into it if you want to like read along. But yeah, shitbag MC, really cheesecakey art, like good art, but very sexual art, very violent, very, very violent art. And I will warn you, from what I remember from later chapters, there's a lot of depression coming. I'd recommend the series, just not if you're a pushover, not if you're easily offended, not if you need lots of happiness in your stories. All right, cool. 15 minutes, 15 and a half. Sounds dope. I'm going to let you guys go. I will, if I do more of these chapter reviews, probably next week. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about Kindred in Amazing Spider-Man. I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, thanks. Bye.